It's time for the Philadelphia Eagles to send a clear and concise message to A.J. Brown. I'll tell you what I mean coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in Eagles fans to this Tuesday edition of the show. I'm your host, Louie DiBiase. We are brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the entire app. The Philadelphia Eagles are red hot right now, 2-game win streak heading into the bye. The vibes are so much higher than they were a couple weeks ago when they lost 2 straight games to the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants. But now suddenly after beating the Vikings and the Giants, you're at 6-2. You're the second best team in the NFC from a record perspective. I think you're clearly still the team to beat in this conference. The vibes could not have changed for the better in such quicker fashion than they have over the last 2 weeks. But there is still, for them to fully catapult into a championship run like they did in 2024, after the bye week, after the blowout loss to Tampa Bay, where they went on a 10-game win streak and they never looked back. Outside of a game where they didn't even have Jalen Hurts in D.C., they never lost again and won a Super Bowl as one of the greatest teams in the history of the NFL. If they want to get back to being that team, if they want to continue the vibes we saw in Minnesota against the Giants, like looking at that locker room, it felt like 2024, 2017 all over again. The elephant in the room really has to be called out, and it has to be resolved. They need to figure out where they're at with A.J. Brown, and maybe inside the building, they have it all figured out. Maybe everybody inside the NovaCare complex has completely embraced who A.J. Brown is. They really do not care about the social media posts, that they know that he wants to be there long term. Like maybe that is the case, and all of this is just from the outside looking in, pure speculation about Brown in the future. Brown is an emotional guy. He's been very open about his mental health. We have dealt with this with AJ since the second half of 2023. Maybe all of this is for nothing, and it's just radio stations and quote-unquote reporters and quote-unquote insiders using this to get clicks and headlines, and that they're trying to get attention by exploiting this headline, because in Philadelphia, drama sells. It's very easy. It's the low-hanging fruit to get this fan base going by creating internal division, whether it's there or not. But I will say, and I do believe that A.J. Brown wants to be in Philadelphia long-term. I think he has individual goals that he's very passionate about. He's a top 3 player in the world at his position, and he wants to dominate, and he's emotional when he doesn't feel like he's performing up to that standard. I think he's very hard on himself. And again, I think he's an emotional roller coaster. I think he has admitted that over the years. But when he does kind of have, this straight, kind of calm perspective, I think he's been very good, eloquent at communicating like what his real true thoughts are on everything, and that he does want to be in Philadelphia long term. So that's what I think the reality is. But we truly do not know, because it's been so opposite ends of the message. Like A.J. Brown, he says that to the media that Philadelphia is home, but then he posts this kind of cryptic message on Instagram that maybe he wants out. He says to the media in the locker room that he's frustrated the offense is not clicking and he wants to be part of the solution. He wants them to rely on him to bail them out in those moments. Then they do that against the Minnesota Vikings, and he posts something else on Instagram where it feels like he's kind of saying, you're using me only when you need saving, but you're not using me to the fullest like I want to be. So it's just very confusing where Brown is at, where his head is at. And then you do see Jeffrey Lurie's comments at an owners meeting last week, and not that he said they're trading A.J. Brown at any point, but he didn't completely shut it down. He said that they'll do what's best for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't think they would trade him unless they got an offer from like the Cleveland Browns that said, this offseason we'll give you Myles Garrett, we'll give you Jerry Jeudy, we'll give you a bunch of picks in the first, second, third round, like Unless that sort of king's ransom is there, I don't believe Brown would get traded. But Lurie didn't completely shut it down. I think if you asked him, are you trading Jalen Hurts? He would scoff at that. I think if you were asking him about an untouchable player that he knows is going to be within this organization for years to come, I don't think you would have got the response that he did. So I don't believe that Brown wants out. I don't believe the Eagles will trade him, considering the cap ramifications as well. But at the same time, it's just been very confusing. And I think it is time that they need to, if they don't know inside the building what he wants, they really do need to sit him down and have him be straight up. Like, if I was Jeffrey Lurie or Howie Roseman and I didn't know what A.J. Brown wants, I would say, look, you've said one thing to the media, you've said one thing to us in the locker room, inside the organization, but what you're saying with your body language, with your social media posts, is something completely different. Like, again, I totally get where Brown's coming from with his frustrations, with the inconsistencies of this passing attack since the second half of 2023, but the back and forth confusion about what you want needs to be resolved so this organization can move forward one way or another. Like, say you want out or say you don't. And then if you don't want out, like he has said in the past he doesn't want out, but then don't turn around immediately after, a week and a half later, when they win a game, you have over 120 yards receiving and 2 receiving touchdowns. Every time you touch the ball, it was electric. And then post something else shady on Instagram that's suggesting the opposite of what you said. I just think eventually they're not going to want to deal with that anymore. And if I'm A.J. Brown, I would not want out. I would try to make this work as much as possible because it can be so much worse elsewhere. Look, the grass isn't always greener. You're not going to just get sent to the Buffalo Bills to play with Josh Allen. The Eagles are not sending you to the Kansas City Chiefs to play with Patrick Mahomes or the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. You're likely going to a team like the team you used to play for, the Tennessee Titans. Like, do you really want to play with Cam Ward instead of Jalen Hurts? Or they're going to want a receiver back in return. They might send you to Jacksonville. Do you really want to play with Trevor Lawrence? The Eagles might want a Brian Thomas Jr. type of player back in return for a trade. Like, be careful what you wish for. Yeah, the passing attack with Jalen Hurts normally is inconsistent, but you're a 3-time All-Pro player with Jalen Hurts. You've had 2 seasons where you've had at least 1,400 yards or more. You had another 1,000-yard season where you would have been closer to 12 to 1,300 if you didn't get injured at times. You've been to 2 Super Bowls. You won one. Your teammates do have your back whenever you do this kind of stuff. And even when you're upset, they do force feed you the football to make you happy. Like, a lot of fans were kind of pissed off during that Broncos game that Brown kind of pouted and got his way, and the Eagles were force feeding him the football. So I think he's got a really good situation in Philadelphia. They are very supportive of him and always have his back when I think other teams, other players, other teammates, other coaches and GMs and owners would eventually get sick of what A.J. Brown is doing. So maybe this is all for nothing, and it's me just being on the outside and not having the correct information to know that this has all been resolved. But, the reports continue to swirl. Jeffrey Lurie really didn't shut it down completely. Brown's messages can be very confusing. And if this is all in a world where Brown has not been clear about what he wants in the future, if I'm Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, I need to know that moving forward. I'm sitting him down during this season and saying, like, are we going to be able to make this work? Are you going to be able to make this work? Because we're probably not trading you. And are you going to make a TO kind of scene in order to force your way out? Like, is that what we have to prepare for in the future? I just think that resolving this A.J. Brown thing is like the last, I think, check on the checklist to get the 2025 Eagles on a Super Bowl run, because the vibes were so high against the Giants, and the passing attack with A.J. Brown against the Minnesota Vikings looked so good. So as long as Brown can be happy moving forward and not be a distraction, then this football team looks like they're set yet again to be a top 2 favorite to win the Super Bowl in San Francisco this year. So we'll see what happens, but I would just like a resolution, and maybe there's been one already, but I don't know. It doesn't really sound like it based on what Jeffrey Lurie said. I don't think they would ever trade A.J. Brown within the next year or two, but A.J. Brown, if he's just completely miserable and a distraction, then yeah, anybody's expendable for the right price. Let me know what you think. Hit us up on X at LockedOnBirds at DBAussieLOE. Coming up next, A.J. Brown, I actually think he is playing with an MVP caliber quarterback right now. There's a really good case for Jalen Hurts to be the MVP, an MVP favorite in 2025, and I'll make that case coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day, continuing to recap what was a blowout, relaxing victory by the Birds over the New York Giants this past Sunday to get to 6-2 on the year. For our third segment, we will do Stock Up as we do every Tuesday on the Locked On Eagles podcast, but Jalen Hurts' stock is up more than anybody within the Philadelphia Eagles organization. And again, that's why I say if I'm A.J. Brown and I'm on the sidelines and I watch that performance, like, yes, Jalen Hurts, is he always a top 5 pocket passer like a Pat Mahomes or a Josh Allen? Although Josh Allen's had a lot of ups and downs this year too, like more probably than Jalen Hurts. No, again, though, he is not that caliber of pocket passer week in and week out. He is not like Tom Brady level consistent inside the pocket. But more times than not, Jalen Hurts is an elite football player. More games Jalen Hurts is elite than he's terrible. And if I'm Brown, just look across the NFL. Like, unless you're saying, and the Eagles just are not going to go with this, unless I'm only playing for 3 other quarterbacks, I mean, is it really that much better to play with? Like, yeah, I mean, you could go play with a Justin Herbert or a Matt Stafford, but the Rams have had their inconsistencies, their peaks and valleys, and Stafford's one of the oldest players in the league, and Justin Herbert and the Chargers have had their ups and downs. Like, is it really going to be better wherever you go? I don't think so. So if he doesn't know what he wants, if he hasn't been clear about his future with the Eagles, I think he should see what happened in that game and say, I've got it pretty good here, and let's try to keep this going and make a dynasty in the NFL. Like, these are things that teams have to deal with when they're on the verge of becoming a dynasty or a consistent championship winner year after year. And the players kind of have to decide if they want to overcome these things or if they want to let it destroy them. And then we see a documentary in 10 years where you're like, oh, what could have been if that team could have stuck together. But if they do stick together, they're going to be competing for championships because Jalen Hurts is looking like an elite quarterback right now in the NFL. These last 2 games, there hasn't been a better player in the league than Jalen Hurts. And I really do think that, look, right now, no, he is not an MVP favorite. Right now, FanDuel has him with the 10th highest odds. He has to put together more complete 4-quarter performances to suddenly get back in that conversation that he was in 2022, the first half of 2023. After the Bills game, people forget, but Jalen was the MVP favorite, according to FanDuel, after that Bills win when the Eagles were 10-1 on the year. If he wants to get back there, we've had a lot of elite moments from Jalen this year, but he's only really had 2 incredible 4-quarter performances, and that was the last 2 wins that they've had. But if he does start to put together those complete games, he has the stat pace to be an MVP candidate. He has the quality wins to be an MVP candidate, and he'll have more opportunities to do that with how to build that, with the schedule getting really tough down the stretch. Jalen Hurts has a pretty good case to be an MVP. I mean, look at his stat pace right now for the 2025 season. He's on pace for 4,000 total yards, 4,003 to be specific, 43 touchdowns, over 30 passing, over 10 rushing, and just 2 touchdowns. Like Jalen is on a 43-2 pace for total touchdowns to interceptions and over 4,000 yards. Like that's unbelievable. Right now, he leads the NFL in total touchdowns with 20. He leads the NFL in touchdown to interception ratio at 15-1. On pace for, like I said, over 4,000 yards, 43 total touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. So he's becoming an explosive playmaker again. He's not playing as scared as he was the first, 5 weeks of the season over the last couple games. But yet he is not turning the ball over, only has 2 interceptions and 1 or 2 fumbles. Like the Eagles have them and the Chiefs are the best turnover differential in the entire league, which is why, yet again, I think we're probably getting Eagles-Chiefs round 3 in the Super Bowl this year, if you ask me, 8 games through the season. But you look at that, Jalen also has a 70% completion percentage right now. He has the most efficient deep ball in the entire NFL. I mean, I think you're crazy to say that Jalen isn't putting himself in the MVP race. Again, he has to put together more complete performances. But if he does that, and there's a lot of games left to play, nobody in the league right now is running away with this thing. I think right now the favorite, if I had to vote for somebody, it would be Patrick Mahomes, because the Chiefs suddenly are at 5-3 and look like the best team in the AFC again. And that was after a really tough first month where Mahomes kind of had to carry them without Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy got banged up. Hollywood Brown was inconsistent. The defense wasn't playing as well as years past. Isaiah Pacheco wasn't fully healthy. The run game was inconsistent. Mahomes kind of had to carry them. He's putting up some pretty incredible numbers. Like, he's kind of back to being aggressive, Patrick Mahomes, now that he's got weapons again. He's been running the football really well. So Mahomes would be my MVP pick at this point. But this isn't like a 2018 kind of Mahomes year where it's like, oh, obviously he's the MVP, or 2019 Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson last year, where you knew it was a 2-man race pretty much the entire season. This year, it's like, you can make the case for Mahomes. You can make the case for Baker Mayfield. You can make the case for, Justin Herbert, or even before they lost this week, like Dak Prescott has been playing really well, but there hasn't been like a slam dunk star of the league this year. Like the story of the NFL in 2025 has been this player. So it's right there for the taking. And Jalen Hurts, it's not just that he has the stats, but the Eagles are 6-2. They're the 2nd seed in the NFC right now. I think they're going to catch Green Bay and probably be the 1 seed in the conference. You also look at quality of wins. He's beaten the Kansas City Chiefs. He's beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He took down Baker Mayfield. He beat the Rams. That's a top 3 team, in my opinion, in the NFC. He plays still the Packers, the Lions, the Bills, the Commanders twice, the Cowboys again. You have to be a top 2 seed, in my opinion, to win MVP in the NFL. You got to have quality wins, you got to have stats, and you got to be a quarterback. Jalen Hurts is slowly checking those boxes in 2025, and it would be so awesome to see him get that, because it's really like the last thing in his career. And it's unbelievable that he's had so many accomplishments already in just 6 seasons, but winning regular season MVP is like the one thing he hasn't done. Like, he's setting rushing records, all-time win percentage records. He's won Super Bowl MVP. He's been to multiple Super Bowls where he stopped a dynasty. He outplayed maybe the 2nd greatest quarterback of all time in 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. Like the deep ball stats are there. He's pretty much been he's been an MVP runner-up. The one thing he hasn't done yet is win the MVP. So I think that would be awesome. And by the way, another stat to show that Jalen is getting close to that category. He's the first quarterback in NFL history with at least 15 touchdown passes, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 1 or 0 interceptions in his first 8 games of a season. So the stat pace that Jalen's on right now, when you combine touchdowns and turnovers through 8 games of a season, nobody has been playing this efficient football, statistically speaking, in the history of the NFL. So I think he's an MVP candidate. And I think the more the season goes on, the more suddenly it's, oh, this is kind of like 2022 again, where maybe it's Pat Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. I think one reason to believe he could win it, they kind of vote based on who's next, right? It's a lot about legacy and okay, who's the next star quarterback that hasn't won one? And if that's kind of the tiebreaker, they go with the guy that hasn't gotten one. I think that was a big part of making Josh Allen the MVP last year instead of Lamar Jackson, right? Jalen is kind of that next star quarterback that hasn't gotten one yet. It's like him and, I mean, who else? Matt Stafford, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and Burrow's hurt, so he's not going to be the guy. Hurts has been the runner-up before. That's one reason to believe that he could be that guy. But I will say one reason that maybe he might not win it, I'm not sure that a national media that has done everything they can basically to discredit all of his accomplishments will really ever give him credit with the support system that he has. So we'll see. It's kind of up in the air, but I mean, the case he's making, the resume he's building this year, suddenly, like, I think he's in that conversation, which is crazy considering the way the first 5 months of the season were going for this offense. But it's not just that Jalen Hurts has turned this offense around. It's been Kevin Patullo, the offensive line, receivers, the run game now. Stock Up coming up next is going to have plenty of offensive players, but the defensive side of the ball shined as well. We'll get into that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everybody sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. That's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and to start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You can just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. So visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know that we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA is back. Basketball is here. And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, which has been Tyrese Maxey lately for the Philadelphia 76ers, who are 3-0 on the year, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Eagles fans, we are wrapping up this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Doing what we do every Tuesday during the year, stock up, stock down. But after such a big win against the Giants and really not many people struggling, didn't want to waste a whole segment talking negative. Stock down. We're going to skip that one for today's show. Wanted to make a case for Jalen Hurts to win MVP in the second segment because, I mean, again, this stat pace is unbelievable. Stock up definitely for Jalen. On pace for over 4,000 yards this year, 43 total touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. Like, that is just ridiculous. I can't believe how good Jalen Hurts has become. I mean, I was watching the film yesterday of that Giants game and seeing the way he was throwing with anticipation and just completely breaking that Giants defense down pre and post snap. To imagine he would get to this level of being a pocket passer, even though he's still more inconsistent than some other star quarterbacks. I'll never forget in 2021 that Buccaneers wild card loss where one of the Buccaneers players was mic'd up and said, he can't read us. Like, he can't read a defense. And they were talking about Jalen Hurts. And that was true at the time. And now, like, I saw a stat the other day that says he's basically, statistically, the best quarterback in the league this year against the blitz. And that used to be like his kryptonite. So Jalen has evolved, and I think he's evolving this year into an MVP favorite. But a lot of other players shined in that game. Let's get into stock up, and got to talk about first, of course, the wide receiver one of that football game, and it was Devontae Smith. Almost 90 yards in this football game, has over 400 yards total over the last 4 weeks. Only Jamar Chase has more receiving yards over the last 4 games than Devontae Smith. He is having an all-pro season, and going back and watching that all 22, the route running of Smitty. Again, I think outside of like Chase, Justin Jefferson, I mean, is there a better route runner in the NFL? Like, just let's remove everybody else on the field and just put a corner and a receiver in a vacuum. If your life is on the line, you say, I need this guy to get separation just based on route running alone. I think Devontae Smith might be my pick. Like, the way he gets right up on a corner's, footsteps, when he like perfectly breaks on the ball, the way he gets corners to turn inside or out, he manipulates coverage and just creates so much separation. It's so impressive. His hands are so good. He can take a huge hit and still hang on to the football. His body control along the sidelines, like the Smitty breakout season. I mean, he's already had some incredible years before, but like the all-pro kind of breakout year where he proves that he belongs in that top tier conversation with other star receivers in football, I think we're there. I mean, he's sixth in the NFL this year in receiving yards with almost 600, 588 to be exact on the season. Devontae Smith continued his hot month against the New York Giants. Stock up to Smitty. Stock up as well to a guy that I got to eat crow. I did not want him playing in this football game. Center Brett Toth, he made us like not miss Cam Jurgens at all. And obviously we want Cam Jurgens in the starting lineup, but I did a podcast last week saying, like, are we sure Jeff Stoutland's making the correct decisions with the depth of this offensive line? Brett Toth was somebody I did not want out there against Dexter Lawrence, and he was really good. I mean, the way he was getting upfield in those outside zone run schemes, I mean, he made a couple really nice blocks in the open field. Pass protection was good. I thought he anchored really well. He was the third highest graded Eagle on the day. So I got to eat crow. Brett Toth was really good. And if you can get that kind of play from the depth of this offensive line, they can kind of let Cam Jurgens get back to full health. And I think this offensive line is peaking and getting healthy at the right time. Landon Dickerson was incredible again. Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. Tyler Steen had a strong game. And Brett Toth allowed you to not skip a beat without your starting center. And I did not think that was going to be the case. So definitely got to eat crow there for sure. Stock up as well to running back Tank Bigsby, who had over 100 rushing yards on the day, and he didn't even have 10 carries, 9 to be exact. Bigsby was unbelievable, a top 5 overall graded player for the Eagles on the day, and having to deal with Saquon Barkley in the backfield and an elite offensive line, a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts, is tough enough for an opposing defense. Now you got to deal with this new dynamic in the backfield, this fresh RB2 when Saquon Barkley comes off the field and you're gassed from dealing with him for 3 quarters. And now here comes a physical runner like Tank Bigsby, who almost kind of gives me like Jay Ajayi, LeGarrette Blount vibes with the way that he runs one cut up field. He's got some good vision in the open field, but he is a very physical, thumping running back. That's a really nice new element to an already elite rushing attack normally that got back on track this week that they haven't really had in some years. Like, when you think about it, Tank Bigsby is the first true backup running back since like Blount and Ajayi that I think you're confident if they lost Saquon for a bit, he could take on a big workload. Because when you look at the years of Miles Sanders being the starter and then DeAndre Swift and now Saquon Barkley, the running backs were more like gadget players, receiving type backs that also are returners, guys that could complement a bell cow in like third down situations. Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, Corey Clement, like those kind of guys. But if Swift went down or Sanders or Saquon, did you really want to give that guy 20 touches in a game? Probably not. But Bigsby is more of that traditional, like, this is the first backup running back that could handle a good workload and not see a massive drop-off running the football since like Jordan Howard, I think. Probably since Jordan Howard. And he was really impressive when the Eagles needed him to be on Sunday. Converted a 2nd and 31 when Saquon went down in the fourth quarter. Was sidelined with that groin injury. Bigsby was able to help you ice the football game. Again, he's a terrible kick returner, but giving up 2 draft picks might not be something that was looking like the disaster that it appeared it was over the first month of the season. Now, it might have been a really good trade from Howie Roseman, just in a different way than we thought. I mean, I thought the trade was for Bigsby to be a kick returner, but if he's a really high-end RB2 suddenly, like, I'll take that for sure. One more player to give a shout-out to on the offensive side of the football. How about Jahan Dotson? Just one catch, but it was a circus catch. Completely mossed the Giants' corner for a 40-yard touchdown where just jumps over his head and says, I'll take that football. Thank you very much. Jahan Dotson never complains. The guy touches the football, it feels like once every 5 games. A former first-round pick. And yet, he does not complain. He does not post cryptic messages on Instagram. He doesn't demand a trade saying, get me out of here. I'm getting close to my prime. I want to be with a team that'll give me the football more. And yet, every single time they do call his number, last year against the Jaguars with that circus catch he made, the deep back shoulder fade against the Dallas Cowboys the following week, a game against the Giants where he's got to be the wide receiver 1 to close out the season, scores the first touchdown against the Packers in the playoffs, makes 2 huge plays in the Super Bowl, getting first downs, setting up touchdowns in Super Bowl 59. And now this play, even the deep 50-yard bomb in the first game of the season against the Dallas Cowboys. It's every time they call on Dotson, and it's only once every month, it feels like a season, he makes the play, though. You got to give Dotson credit, an ultimate team guy. And I know he's going to leave next year, and good on him. He's going to have a much bigger role somewhere else, but what a good teammate. And I think he deserves that. He's going to be a good player somewhere else. And I think again, a 3rd-round pick for Dotson. I wouldn't do that again, but he's filled the role really nicely that Quez Watkins never was able to. And he definitely contributed to the run of these past 2 years. And I think that'll continue down the stretch here. A.J. Brown wasn't in this game, and I'm very confident that Dotson can fill in for one of those 2 top receivers if he needs to as the season moves forward. All right, a couple of defensive players for stock up before we wrap up the show. Jalen Hunt, 2 weeks in a row, the best defensive player on the team. And what a big spot to do it in games where your edge rushers are beat up. Some guys are retiring. Some are coming out of retirement, getting ready. You're wondering if the Eagles are going to make a move at the trade deadline. And suddenly out of nowhere, here's Jalen Hunt, leads the NFL in pressures over the last 2 games, has a pick 6, has a sack. Watching the film, his pass rush moves are really developing. You can see the traits. They're really starting to form with technique and the speed to power moves that he's able to pull off. The bull rush move was so impressive against the Giants. These tackles were really struggling to anchor against Hunt. But I think the more impressive part of Hunt's game was, even when he would get pressures, sometimes it wasn't always because he won off that initial rush, but his athleticism, his lateral speed, his ability to mirror and chase down mobile quarterbacks is a trait that is really important to have in the modern day NFL. You can tell this was a former safety that had range in a secondary. And now he's an edge rusher, and being able to be that kind of pseudo spy on the edge that even if you didn't win your initial rush, you can still affect the quarterback, whether it's through a sack, a pressure, a quarterback hit. He could be that guy. And Jalen Hunt, if he continues to break out like this and Nolan Smith comes back, I said it on the show after the game, they're not going to need to trade for an edge rusher. He's breaking out, and so too is Moro Ijoma. Another sack for Ijoma, 4 on the year. Came in a big spot in the second half. He leads the team in sacks. At this point, actually, through 8 games, he has 4 sacks. Through 8 games of the 2024 season, Milton Williams had 3.5. So Ijoma is outpacing what Milton Williams did last year during a career year. And that is so huge because Milton Williams was so instrumental to what that defense was able to do in 2024. And they are not skipping a beat. Moro Ijoma, it's so great to see, when you expect a player to break out and then they do it and exceed expectations, that's a really good feeling. Ijoma was such a steal in that 2023 class. That class is becoming one of the greatest in Howie Roseman's career. And then, let's see, one more. Who else do we got here for you? How about a shout out to Kelee Ringo, one of the top 5 overall graded Eagles on the day. Again, the Giants don't have star receivers. It's not like he completely shut down a Justin Jefferson in this matchup, but that was good to see from Ringo because moving forward, I'm not sure if the Eagles are going to trade for a cornerback. I think they should, but if they don't, it's nice to know that, again, Ringo has some low lows like that game against the Giants on Thursday Night Football. But to see him put on this kind of performance, and I thought he was pretty solid against the Buccaneers. I thought he was solid against the Broncos. To know that Ringo can, I don't believe anymore he's like the CB2 of the future on the outside, opposite Quinyon Mitchell. But to know that in spot starts, he can, in the right matchup, have this kind of game where he covered really well in man, and I thought he tackled really well too. Wasn't beat by any double moves or beat down the field like 2 weeks ago. That's good to know. I don't know what Fangio plans on doing if they don't trade for somebody, because during his press conference today, he said they want to give Jacorian Bennett a look when he comes back from practice. He mentioned still seeing where Adoree Jackson's at. It's kind of still musical chairs at this spot, and maybe you just play the hot hand. I think they definitely want to give Bennett a look, but Ringo, to me, still is the most talented player of the three, and I guess it's good to know, he might not always be a liability if they don't trade for somebody, but I would still say the Eagles do need to trade for a cornerback at the deadline. I don't think he did anything against the Giants on Sunday to convince me of okay, kind of like the edge rushers. Jalix Hunt and Josh Uche convinced me. They don't need to add another pass rusher with BG and Smith coming back, but Ringo, again, against, Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton, didn't do enough for me to say they're good at that spot. So we'll see, though. That was definitely a good step in the right direction, though, for Kelee Ringo. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Eagles. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler Rowland in the mornings, Tony Wiggins in the afternoon. 2 shows for you each and every day on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. As always, thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.